Hey, this is Austin Harman Mixes, and welcome to episode number 3 of my Fundamentals of Audio series. Today, we're going to be talking about different audio components. This part of my series is for very basic beginners to audio if you're first starting out learning how to mix. If you're an expert, go ahead and skip this one. This one's not for you. I have more stuff coming for you later. Please like and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into it. Introduction to audio components. Today we're going to be breaking down all of the components of an audio system. How do you get sound as an audio engineer to happen? How does it work? Well, first, we're going to start out with something so very basic, which is, what is a microphone? And in this case, I have an AKG P120 microphone. Link to this microphone down in the description below if you're interested in purchasing it. This is the microphone that I use for the Austin Harman Mixes podcast. And you might be wondering, how does this microphone actually work? There's this nice grill here, and then there's kind of this cable port down below. And we're going to get into all of that, actually. But in order to explain how this microphone works, I'm going to explain how the speaker works, because believe it or not, they are related. Set this aside for now. Now, right here, we have a kind of prototype. It's hard to call it a prototype. It's actually what we call a proof of concept for Austin Harman Designs, my speaker company, where we build and manufacture speakers built right here in the US. If you're interested in that, link down in the description. This is our proof of concept box. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to test variations of our designs and allow us to listen to how they actually sound in the real world. Now, what's interesting about this box is that it's actually a cutaway. So when I turn it to the side here, you can actually see the components inside this box. Now, if you're an audio expert, you might be thinking, Austin, this would sound terrible. And yes, you're right, it would. But it's open on purpose because we want to be able to tweak that design in real time. Now, the cover for this box is just out of camera. There's actually a plate that goes over like this. But for the purposes of this video, we are going to explain the individual components. Now, right here, now this is my woofer, okay? I have a woofer in here, and then I have a horn driver setup, and then a crossover here in the back. Now, the reason why I wanted to start out with the speaker is that the speaker works very similarly to a microphone. The speaker has what's called a diaphragm or a cone, and this pushes and pulls air as it's mechanically pushed and pulled by an electromagnet on the backside of this speaker. The electromagnet is wound copper or aluminum clad wire around a cylindrical piece, and that wound piece is called a voice coil. And when you apply electrical current to that wound cylindrical piece, it moves back and forth due to a solid or stator magnet within the speaker. And that pushing and pulling force corresponding with a electrical energy applied to that wire will cause that cone to move in and out. And you can actually see, barely here on camera, this cone actually moves. And as it does, it makes a little bit of sound. Now, the microphone that we mentioned just a minute ago has the same exact contraption where there's a diaphragm that is pushed and pulled by the air coming from my voice. That's translated into electrical signals, which are then translated out of these little posts at the bottom. Now, those posts meet up with what we call a XLR cable. Okay, XLR, it's a 3-pin cable that plugs right here into the bottom of the microphone with a satisfying click. Now, the XLR is just a 3-cable cable that translates those electrical signals to the audio console that's over here behind me. That audio console has what's called a preamp, and that preamp is designed to take those very minute electrical pulses generated by that diaphragm in the microphone and translate them into something that is actually useful for an amplifier. Now, what is an amplifier? I happen to have one here. Oh, it's very heavy right here. And this is a crown XLI 800 series amplifier. It's designed to go in a rack unit, and it has 2 channels. Now what the amplifier does is it takes audio signal and it amplifies it. It makes it stronger. And that amplified signal goes over some speaker cable. In this case, we have what's called a speak-on cable. That speak-on cable, or twist lock cable, twists into the back of the speaker, and I will demonstrate that now for you. On the back side of our speaker, I can twist this into the speaker, make a satisfying lock, and now all of a sudden my speaker is connected to the amplifier. Now, all of that magic happens just to create sound, and that is the whole chain. So we have speakers, we have amplifiers, we have microphones, we have cables. I'm going to set this one aside for now because it's very heavy. And we also have audio consoles. Now behind me in the set, we have a old school, what we call analog audio console. Now all that means is it has a bunch of knobs and it uses electrical circuits to manipulate those minute electrical circuits or signals coming from the microphones. Or we have a digital console over here, which does the exact same thing as that big console behind me, but in a much smaller form factor in the digital domain. So there's a lot more components to this chain of audio and making sound, but I wanted to give you a basic overview of the components involved. You might also notice over my shoulder here, I have an acoustic guitar. Now, if you're not familiar with musical instruments that are on stage, there's going to be a whole video covering that. This is, after all, the fundamentals of audio series, so we've got to cover that. But that acoustic guitar has strings that whenever you play, create vibration, and they create sound. That acoustic guitar also has a microphone that has the same contraption I just mentioned earlier to pick up that sound, translate it to your audio console, and subsequently to the amplifiers and to the speakers. This has been episode number 3, the fundamentals of audio series, audio components. I hope you'll join me for my next video where we are going to discuss the mechanics and basics of sound.